Hi, welcome to Space Invaders. We're the show that helps you with your building projects, both large and small. Now today, we're at a very large late Victorian grange, an exquisite one at that. Now, just take a look at this place. Those windows, they're very Moorish in design, but it's a fabulous looking house. Really is nice. It's called a grange, but it's what I'd call just a huge Victorian mansion. Let's go and have a look. Excuse me, you must be Mario?
How you doing?
Fine. Any chance of me getting in here?
Certainly is.
Wow. Do you know what? This hallway is probably bigger than my house.
It's bigger than my house as well.
So your job here today is you're the man who's going to repair the floor?
I am.
Now, would you call this floor a mosaic floor?
Generally it's called a mosaic floor, but it's actually a geometrical floor.
Mostly Victorian, aren't they, these floors?
Mainly, yes.
Yeah. The problem I find is actually trying to source the materials to reinstate a floor if there's a damaged area.
What we do is we source old reclaimed tiles to replace where the areas of damage are.
Right, so but where would you get them from?
Well,
I mean, say for instance, if you were commissioned to say put a brand new reproduction floor in, would you have all the tiles that you could salvage from the original floor?
We would. We'd come, we'd remove the floor, we'd actually purchase the tiles off the customer.
Oh, you'd purchase the tiles off the customer?
That's right, yeah. So we can then reuse those tiles for other restoration projects.
Well, you're an honest Joe then.
You have to be.
Right. Tell me first of all, why have you got this area exposed like this?
What happened here was there was a series of floor grills running through the actual border.
And what would they be for?
They would be for an underground heating system when the house was originally built. What we're going to do is we're going to replace the border tiles all the way along.
You're going to piece that back in?
And match it all up to the existing.
And what are you going to lay the tiles on?
Well, generally what happens is a lot of these tiles, when they were manufactured, were slightly different thicknesses.
Right.
So what we do is in this instance, we chop out and we lower the floor. We fill it in with a little bit of concrete, as you can see, and then we lay it into a wet screed mortar. And we're using a cement-based adhesive, which we trowel onto the surface of the screed, and we stick the tiles on. Once all the tiles have been laid into position, we tap them down and we get them nice and flat.
Now these tiles actually abut each other. They're very tight, so there's no need for grouting. Now when you tap them down in the past, I have found that you get a splurge of adhesive to come round the side of the tiles and then they all open up.
That's right.
So how do you avoid that?
Well, what we generally do is, if we trowel the adhesive on,
yes,
and if I can correct you there, we do grout the tiles.
But is there any special method when you actually apply the tiles down to stop it splurging up and the whole thing moving? Or is that just practice?
It's just practice, really.
Right, okay. So
takes a lot of skill.
Obviously, it takes a lot of skill. Obviously, I've not practiced enough. Well, I'll try it when I get home. Right, now tell me now, I can see that you've got a problem here because you've used all the old tiles, obviously, so far there to cut out where the grills were, to infill where the grills were, right? So now you're this lot short, right?
That's right.
So how are you going to get round that?
Well, we have the tiles manufactured, and then we have one here.
So this is actually a manufactured copy made today?
That's right, yeah.
And these are what, handmade copies of the originals?
Handmade from an original tile. Obviously, because of the clays 100 years ago and the clays that are mined today, there might be slight shade variation in the tile.
What I do with flooring, say when it's timber flooring, I quite often take timber boards from another part of the house and use them in that particular area where I want them, and then replace the other rooms which are not going to be seen with new timber.
That's exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to dig them up from the back of the floor.
Right.
And we're going to replace this section with originals. So when this section is done and you open the door, the main body of the floor will be all original. So all the tiles we use are reclaimed.
Are these expensive when you have them made?
They are.
Well, take me around and show me where these other ones are. God, dear. Who's this then?
This is my brother, Mick.
Oh, Mike.
Hiya, all right.
So what's happened here then?
This section of the floor had been repaired or replaced at some point with quarry tiles. So we've dug these quarry tiles up to reinstate the floor.
Oh, what, ordinary quarry tile?
Yeah, I think it was done something like in the 30s by the age of the tiles. So what we're going to do now is dig the rest of this subfloor out, concrete it, and reinstate the floor back as it was originally.
Right, and I'm going to take this opportunity to have a look around this house because it's huge. Now this is an interesting room. It somehow doesn't match up to its Victorian heritage. I mean, I look around and I say, very strange. I mean, it's obvious that this is not original. This is a new stone fireplace that's been fitted. Rather baronial. I don't think it goes with the style of the house. But now look at all these panels on the wall and the panels on the ceiling, and it just doesn't seem right. Hold on, let me just take this jacket off. That's better. This is original feature, and you look up to the base of that cornice. You say, that's strange. That leads me to the actual curvature of the cornice, which seems deeper set than the finished surface of the ceiling. That's not right. You know, they should be level. The deepest part of that curve should be level with the ceiling. And I look around, I see this feature, and I say, we've got a repeat of that feature here, but it's been concealed. So that tends to lend itself to the fact that this wall has been overlaid with plasterboard or plaster, which then would lead me to think that these panels have been put on at a later date. And this one certainly sounds hollow. It might be lifted, but something about them tells me that they're not original, which leads me to look at this ceiling. You know, there's no way this ceiling is the age it's supposed to be. It's in too good a condition. And over here, we have a telltale sign. We have an old light fitting, and that looks to me like plasterboard. So I would say that this ceiling has had plasterboard fitted over the original ceiling, and then all this decoration has gone on afterwards. So everything's not as it may seem. And then we come down to the floor. Now, this has got an original Victorian oak block flooring around the side. That's quite common for the time. But the Victorians were good. They would have never overlaid this central part of the floor and left the fixings showing. These would have been tongued and grooved boards, and they would have been secret nails so you wouldn't see the fixings. And all the boards would have matched if this was going to be a finished floor. All around the edge, there is an oak lipping. And I would say that this central part of the floor was lower to enable this floor to have a huge rug in the middle, which would bring the rug level with the floor. And at some time, someone's laid this bit of flooring on top. They've put this on top to level the floor up and do away with the rug. Well, that's my theory. It just goes to show you never can tell what's real. As usual, I've got to come up via the tradesman's entrance. This is the servants' stairwell, which is at the back of the house. Rather less fancy than the main staircase. Continues up to the next floor. When this house was originally built, this must have been designed purely as a servants' quarters, because it actually takes all the contours of the roof. Very unusual shape. I mean, have a look in here. Amazing. A very innovative use of the space. It actually follows the shape of the roof. Not very friendly, but I think it's nice. But it's obviously designed for the vertically challenged. Well, Mario, that's looking terrific, mate. Is that finished?
No, it's just a dry run at the moment. We're just offering the tiles in to make sure they all fit. And if you need to slightly trim them, you can take them out and remove them without getting your hands covered in glue.
Right. But I do notice, mate, this line's a little bit wonky.
Reason for that is, sometimes when you're using reclaimed tiles, you get a grout edge of the existing grout, which can throw it out somewhat. So what we need to do is just get a nice scraper, clean that grout off. Comes off relatively easy.
I thought there would be an excuse. No, that's all right, mate. No, fine.
The edges are smooth then.
I understand.
Replace that back in and just push it back into position.
Oh, that's looking good. Right, is there anything I can do and I'll let you get on with this?
You can go and cut me this tile and I'm going to start sticking them in from this end.
Hi, welcome back. Today we're in a Victorian Grange in Warwickshire. In my language, that's a large Victorian mansion. And we're working on an original tiled floor. There you go, look at that cut. Perfect. And not a chip along there at all. This is the most important thing. If you're going to do this, hire one of these wet cutters, and it must have a solid wheel. That's for cutting paving slabs when it's got slots. So a continuous wheel. And you can hire these are really good machines, you can hire these from any good shop. Let's just hope Mario likes it, eh? Here you are, Mario, my old cocker. Here's the cut as you wanted it.
Oh, thank you. Let's have a look, see if it fits. Superb. Look at that. You'll make a good tiler one day.
I'll have you know, I've laid more tiles than you've had at dinners.
Let's just give
I'll
that.
just clarify that. I mean, I've laid on more tiles than he's had at dinners.
Let's just give that a little tap into position.
I mean, these are quite often different thicknesses and
That's
they
right.
roll around a bit. So how do you get them, make sure they're all flat?
Right, well, what we do, we use a hard squeegee.
Yeah.
But if you do
Which
need
is
to...
hold on, a squeegee is a float.
Is a float.
Right.
Basically, it's a hard, you can use a plastic float or a piece of wood. And once the tiles have been laid, we just go over it gently.
Does that mean the operative word being gently?
Yes.
In case you break the tiles?
That is correct.
There was a broken tile that I was going to ask you how to do without damaging the other tiles. You must use a very small, sharp pencil chisel.
It is better to break it in small pieces rather than large pieces.
In other words, be patient.
That's right,
But
yeah.
you could, if you wasn't feeling too sure about using a chisel at first, you could drill a series of holes with a masonry bit in the centre just to create the start of it, couldn't you?
That's right, you could, yeah, yeah.
Now this is very important because we have to get all this old material out, don't we?
That's right. Now, the best way to get this out is with a hoover. Make sure that's nice and clean.
Oh, look at that.
And it fits back in. It's as simple as that.
We're at the back of the house and I want to introduce you to Chris Cox, who's a specialist tile maker. Hi, Chris.
Hi there, Tommy.
Now, this is a reproduction of what's on the border tiles inside.
That's it, yeah.
I think we call them encaustic.
Encaustic tiles, that's
I'll get
right.
my tongue round that. What does encaustic actually mean?
Encaustic means in-burnt, encaustic. It's based on a Greek word. It's not a particularly good way of describing the tiles. Inlaid is better. But
Well, I prefer inlaid.
Well, that's right. Inlaid tends to refer to the original medieval tiles, which is where this process began, back in medieval times. Encaustic we tend to use for the Victorian tiles. It's a word the Victorians introduced to confuse the working classes, if you like. You know, it's
Right.
a very Victorian thing to do. But
So what's this stuff you've put in here?
okay, this is the buff clay. This forms the buff part of the decoration on the tile, the lighter coloured part of the decoration. The buff clay's gone into the recesses and a plaster of Paris mould in there.
Right.
That's cast onto a piece of glass, so it's nice and smooth, and then I'll carve out the design about 10% bigger, because I've got 10% shrinkage rate to take into account with the clays, especially with the wet clays, you see.
So do you put this over the top of this now?
Yeah, so the buff clay's gone in, that's the buff part of our design, and then the body clay goes in.
That was a bit violent, wasn't it?
It is. It's a good way of
making my loaves of bread.
It's a good way of working out all your stresses. You know, you can't get too stressed over this job. Just
well, I should take one of these home with me. I think I need one of these.
You might want to move those tiles because it's
Right,
going to get
so-
violent.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Right.
Right, so that's that done.
That's
I presume.
consolidated the tile body. That gives us a basis for the tile.
Well, I should say that is consolidated.
So the next stage is just to strike off the back with the strike. Do that a couple of times, get a good clean back on the tile. So that's ready to come out of the mould.
Right.
And that just pops up out there.
Oh, is that it?
That's it. And now that has to sit aside for a while, maybe 30 minutes, an hour.
What's the next stage now?
Well, the next stage now is to take this off here. So that comes off. If I move it over here onto the board,
Wow.
there you can see, we can put this to one side,
Oh, let me put these back up as well.
and there you can see the tile with the raised image in the buff clay. It's not
I get it
particularly
now,
buff at the moment, but the
yeah.
raw oxides give it that sort of green tint that you can see there,
Right.
and all the waste around the edge. So that's ready for the next stage, which is the black background. Okay, this is a liquid version of the buff clays we've got there, but made black. So this can be poured in, and we can be really liberal with this. Get
Well,
tons
'cause-
of it in there. Well, the next stage is to make sure that it gets into all the nooks and crannies.
Well, I'll just watch you doing this.
Because what we don't want is any air pockets in there, because they'll then form a little pinprick hole in the tile. 4 or 5 days, that's stiffened up. It's not bone dry, it's just stiffened up. That's ready to remove all that surplus and reveal the tile underneath.
Right. But that's what it looks like.
That's what it looks like, 4 or 5 days. Now that's like a bar of chocolate. It's quite stiff now. It's not dry,
Oh, yeah,
but
dark
it's
chocolate.
stiffened up. It's like a bar of chocolate.
Right.
So the next stage, we take a little steel scraper and we literally scratch off the surface. And you can see all that surplus slip coming off the surface.
Wow.
And
look at
underneath is our buff clay in
Oh,
the
that
design
is-
that we've pressed into the plaster mould.
that. Oh, that's really,
that
really
then-
good.
It's ready to dry. We dry it for about 4 weeks and it's ready to fire.
Why am I sitting here? Well, I'm just trying to enjoy the space the Victorians had the luxury of enjoying. I mean, look at the size of this place. It's wonderful. Mind you, if you think this is big, come and take a look in the master bedroom. See, what I tell you about master bedroom? Look at the size of this. But this is only part. Come this way. Now here we have the ensuite bathroom. Look at the size of this. But we're not finished. Come this way. You'll like this. Now here we have a lovely ensuite dressing room. Very nice. But we're not finished yet. Come this way. This is the master ensuite dressing room. Look at these wardrobes. No complaints from the wife if you had all these wardrobes. It's wonderful. Oh, sorry. I just want to introduce you. This is Rupert Southall, who's a chartered surveyor. That's right, isn't it?
That's
Rupert?
correct.
Could you tell me exactly what that entails, a chartered surveyor?
Right, I'm a general practice chartered surveyor. I undertake mortgage valuation inspections of residential properties for banks and building societies, and I also undertake private surveys of houses for the purchaser.
I've heard people say before that chartered surveyors do very little for quite a lot. Now, I know that's a bit facetious, but is there, in the past there's been some justification in that?
Well, I wouldn't say so. If people realised actually how long we take on site inspecting the house and actually preparing and writing the report, they would realise that there's a lot of work involved. It's a question of time. I would recommend anybody buying a property to have a survey of the property by a chartered surveyor.
Well, Rupert, I know that this property was a residential home for the elderly between the Second World War and the late 90s. Now, is it a major problem to convert it from a commercial building back to residential?
Well, it can be a problem, but the first and the most important thing is to obtain the relevant planning permission from the local authority. You do require planning permission to convert it back.
Now, when I arrived at this house, I did notice there was a single-storey flat roof extension on the right-hand wing. It's absolutely horrendous. Now, would it be possible to demolish that and maybe build a conservatory?
It would be, providing the building isn't listed or within a conservation area, yes, you'd be able to do that. But if you were to build, for example, a conservatory in its place, you're likely to require planning permission and building regulation approval from the local authority.
Oh, that's clever. Well, you're putting dry cement on it to help dry up the ground.
It's not cement, it's actually floor grout, ordinary ceramic floor grout, which is part cement, part sand, so it's a natural cleaner and it will clean the floor as well as grouting it. I'm now going to, once that's gone off a little bit, I'm going to brush it with a brush to get the excess off the tiles.
Oh yeah, look at that. That's come up clean, hasn't it?
This will just help to fill the joints in evenly.
So once this is grouted, then you finish it now.
Yeah.
Mario's going to wash it off so that gets off any excess cement, right?
Yeah.
Or excess dust. And then what would you do? You leave this for a few days, finish all the repairs to the floor, if
Yeah.
there's any more to do, and then you would clean the whole floor down in one go.
That's right, yeah.
And would you use a special cleaner like disc clean or brick clean on this? To bring it up?
Acid is not a good idea on these floors because it's acid, it will eat into the cement, and what you have is a white powder coming back through.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean, like a blooming.
Yeah. Now it's not good for the floor.
Right. So what would you use? Just elbow grease and
a good quality tile cleaner from a good quality tile shop. So once the floor has been washed and cleaned and left for a day or so to completely dry out, you then get the impregnator, seal the floor, let that dry for half an hour and get a good quality beeswax or floor wax and rub that in with a tea towel and buff it up.
well, that seems fairly clear to me. Well, I think they made a very good job of this, and I think that's all the information you need to know. All that's left for me to say is thanks very much, mate.
Thank you.
Pleasure working with you. And you,
yourself.
Mario.
Thank you.
That's it for now. See you next time on Space Invaders.
Tommy pokes around a 17th century cottage with a variety of eccentric extensions next on Quest in another edition of Space Invaders.